I want to give you an idea about what we're going to be doing over the course of the semester with the specific readings that I've chosen for this class, focused on love, friendship, and desire. We are going to be studying philosophy in general, but we're going to be taking this particular theme. And so metaphysics will fit in with here, ethics will fit in with here, philosophy of action, epistemology. All these concerns get sort of sucked into these themes. And these are really interesting to think about, in part because all of you have experience with this. It's not like, say, metaphysics all on its own. You know, maybe some of you have not speculated about what is everything made of before. But all of you have had friendships, and all of you have felt love, and maybe fallen in love, and had relationships. All of you had and still have all sorts of desires, and you've witnessed other people having desires and how those play themselves out. These are things that we make movies about, we write songs about, and we write literature about. These are things where the most sublime things occur in human nature, and also some of the most demonic things occur, and also some of the most pathetic and silly and good fodder for comedy shows, and then things that we want to strive for and aim at. So I think you'll find this very rewarding to look at what philosophers have had to say about this. Now, think about those big questions just for a moment while I put some other things on the board. Those big questions about love or friendship that I had you sort of mull over for your own account. What I want to do while you're doing that is put up some Greek words that people often want to use to divide up love. And you may have encountered these before. Does this look familiar to any of you? Eros, Agape, Philia. I think if you've encountered this before, it was probably in a religion class. Some sort of catechism, or perhaps a psychology class. But these usually get talked about in religious frameworks, in part because it's become quite popular since the 20th century to use the Eros, Agape, Philia distinction to talk about what Christian love ought to be like. You know, it should be like agape and not this Eros stuff, that messy, sexual, romantic stuff. Really disinterested love in the other person. That's what it's all about. And then, Philia is based on having things in common, and you don't have to have something in common with someone who you love. Love is an activity, a choice, not an emotion. That's usually where this comes from. Then Storge comes in as a fourth kind. One of the classic books on this from the 20th century is The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis, where he uses this classification, but it's not quite so crude as that. Another guy, Anders Nygren, is responsible for the Eros Agape thing. He wrote a whole book about it, and it's been very influential on religious people. As a matter of fact, even Pope Benedict's encyclical, God is Love, used this three-part classification here, these Greek words. So why are people so fascinated with these three Greek words and then this leftover Storge? Well, because they came to represent some fundamental ways in which a human being could be oriented towards another human being or something else. And Eros, when we say Eros, what immediately comes to mind? I mean, if you're classically trained, it might be the little Cupid guy at Valentine's Day. That's Eros. But what do you really think about? Erotic, right? That's the word that comes from it. What does erotic mean? Does it have to do with love?
Lust.
Lust, yeah, lust and lust for beer? No. Sex, yeah, sexuality. And sexuality and sexual desire is one of the strongest forms of Eros, one of the most fundamental kind. The Greeks, the way that they use this term, you could feel Eros towards a lot of other things. They would actually say the drunk actually does have Eros for beer, desire for beer. So this you can think of as desire. And when we feel desire, in general, do we feel desire for things that we already have? Or do we feel desire for what we don't have? Isn't this part of the problem too with romantic relationships? You know, the person looks so attractive, I got to spend all my time with them, and then you're with them and you're like, yeah, they're boring me. I've got, you know, I've experienced that. I want to move on. Well, this other one over here is very interesting. Well, that's Eros. That's the way a lot of people conceive of it. And the ancient Greeks tended to see it that way. They didn't call everything that fit under that Eros. And they didn't use this word Eros or its verbal cognates only for that sort of desirous need love, is what Lewis calls it. But that is a very important part of our human nature, right? I mean, take love out of the picture and let's just think about desire. Why are you here in this classroom at 10:30 in the morning? Did you really, really, really want to study philosophy for its own sake? Anybody? I didn't even when I was taking intro to philosophy myself. The whole story of how I became a philosophy major was pretty comic. So why are you here? You have other desires, right?
Get an education.
Yeah, get an education. And that's, is it only for its own sake, or do you want to do something with that? Yeah. To succeed, get a job. And your job, is that going to be the whole focus of your life? Or is you have Eros for the job, just give me more and more work? Or is there something else you want out of life? Yeah.
You need the job to succeed, to spend time doing other things that you desire to do.
Yeah, you have some desires that are higher and some desires that are lower, some that you know, are the real goal. Like if you could, here'd be a question to ask yourself. If you won the lottery tomorrow, and it wasn't just like the little lottery, but you know, millions, right? Even after the government takes its 50% cut, the state of New York probably takes a big bite too, I'm willing to bet too. Would you stay in school? And would you go and find a job?
No.
I think a lot of people would say that, yeah. I mean, if you were, you might actually like go back to school eventually and say, yeah, I kind of enjoyed taking classes, but you wouldn't just take whatever your advisor told you. You'd take what you wanted to take, wouldn't you? I'm interested in this. I don't care if I need this to graduate. I may never graduate. I'm loaded. I don't need to graduate, right? Same thing with jobs. Some of you might work. I'd probably keep doing a lot of what I'm doing, even if I made it rich, because I love what I do. It's very satisfying. But I'll tell you, I worked a lot of jobs where that was not the case. And I think a lot of you will have jobs that, at least at the beginning, hopefully only at the beginning, will be like that. And then eventually you'll find satisfaction in it. And Eros can be part of that. Desire. Love in that sense. Let me shift way over here now to Storge. Storge is a term that in general in Greek signifies affection. And it's usually used for the kind of affection that parents feel towards their children, children feel towards their parents, towards siblings, familial affection. But you know, you can think of other types of affection that are kind of similar. You know, like with your pets, you might have Storge with your pets. Your pets, depending on what kind of pets they are, may feel it towards you. Dogs, cats, very clearly. Ferrets, cows, you know, if you're a 4-H person, they do too. Horses. Tarantulas, probably not, you know. Fish, probably not. Reptiles, it's kind of out, the verdict on that. They don't seem to have enough of the mammalian brain structure that's needed to feel this kind of thing, is what a lot of people think. But I don't know, maybe they do. You probably shouldn't, you know, make definitive declarations about this unless we know for sure. That's a good epistemological point, right? But this is something that's different than just, you know, romantic desire or need or want or something like that. How can you tell? Well, at least for some people, don't they stick around and keep showing up after they no longer need their parents? I mean, this is one way to tell whether you were a good parent or not, right? Or if, your kids turned out to be good kids. They actually want to spend time with you even when they're not getting money from you, when they don't need something from you. There's something there. That is something worth thinking about. Philia, this is what is often translated as friendship. The Greeks used it sometimes in wider terms, like you could be philohippos, a lover of horses, people that are really into horses. I guess philomusica, would be somebody who's really into music. Philosophia means literally love of wisdom, but sort of friendship love with wisdom, trying to become more and more like that wisdom that you want to partake in. And friendship is somewhat different than, say, romantic love, erotic love, or just pure need and getting that need satisfied, desire, isn't it? At least some friendships. I mean, there may be some friends who we just use. Maybe they're not friends in the full sense. That's something we want to explore later. And then finally, there's this word agape. Are any of you familiar with agapeic love? Has it been heard that talked to you about?
It means like love without sex, right? Or like without desire.
Yeah, it could. I mean, you could have like a marriage where it had all these components, as opposed to what they used to call mariage blanche, a white marriage, literally where they live together as brother and sister, but no sex. Sounds like a terrible kind of arrangement to me, but yeah, it's not so much that it takes sex out of the picture. It's supposed to be disinterested. It's not trying to get something from the object that's loved. It's for the sake of the object itself. So if I treat you well, even though I'm not going to get anything out of it, and I don't have anything in common with you, and we're not like, siblings or cousins or anything like that, that could be agapeic love. This is often held up as, the ideal for various religions. If you think about the story of the Good Samaritan, the guy who sees the guy who got beaten up by robbers on the roadside, they really kicked the tar out of him, and everybody else passes by him. And they had reasons why they passed by in the story, the ritual issues. And this guy's not even of the same race as him. And race meant something very different back then. But you got to remember, in the story of the Good Samaritan, Samaritans and Jews hated each other, just hated each other. There's all sorts of bad blood reasons for that. But this guy says, well, he's a human being. So I'm going to get him out of the gutter and take him to the inn and tell the innkeeper, wash him up, and I'm going to dress his wounds. Here's some money. I'll be back in town a little bit later. If you need more money to take care of him, I'll front you that money too. Now, what's he getting out of that? Getting to feel like the big shot, the important guy. That's not his motivation. And he it's not only that he doesn't have anything in common with this guy, they're from, rival organizations. He should hate this guy. He should feel the opposite of friendship for him. But he doesn't. Instead, he treats him well. That's often held up as, like one of the paragon examples of agape. That's why that story got told at that point, right? So these are all different classifications. Now, ask yourself this, and this is a philosophical question. Does this cover the whole gamut? Is this an adequate classification? That's part of what we're going to explore over the course of the semester. Now let's think about some of the questions that you guys have. And I'll if we run out, I've got a few of my own that we will definitely look at over the course of the semester. What are some things that have always puzzled you about love or friendship? I'm sure that some things have puzzled you, because these are murky, mysterious human topics that tie in with who we are. Yeah.
Why we always get to that point where we desire what we can't have.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. the desire for the unattainable itself. Why is the forbidden fruit always more tempting? There's actually an Italian proverb, and I don't know how to say it in Italian, but it goes, if only drinking water were sinful, it would taste so much more sweet. The idea being that if somebody lays down a prohibition, that somehow it makes it feel, like we get a bigger charge out of it when we cross that line. Yeah, that's a good one. We will explore that question through some of these. What else? What else have weighed on your mind, kept you awake at night? Besides, is this person in love with me or not? Should I pursue this person? More general things. I know you guys have some things. Who's shy at this point in the semester? Yeah.
How do you go from being friends one day to not friends the next?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's not enough to know the definition of friendship or how we get to be friends. How do you remain friends? And are there certain critical moments where it could go this way or go this way? There's another related question too about when you go from being friends to being romantically involved, does that destroy the friendship? Does it have to destroy the friendship? Yeah, you had your hand up.
Why can love affect people in harmful ways?
Oh, yeah. Very important question. Is love always good for us? We hear love talked about as a great good, and in general it is. But can it be harmful for us? And maybe we have to distinguish between different kinds of love in order to do that. Think about agape love. Could you give so much that you actually do harm to yourself or to your people who you ought to be feeling these other forms with? You leave them out as a result. That could be bad love. How do we draw these lines? Those are important questions. What happens when people fall in love or form friendships? What is actually going on there in the psyche of those people? Is it all above board? Or is there really strange subterranean things going on that maybe we can't actually generalize about? Maybe with some things we have to say, well, philosophy can't actually deal with it. That's purely personal, purely individual. That's a question for philosophy. Are these just feelings? Or do they reflect something deeper in our human nature? Do they always blind us? Do they turn thinking off or reason off? Or could they sometimes be ways to actually see the truth of things more clearly? And if so, how does that happen? Because we know, every one of us, that there are some cases where people are friends with each other and it totally blinds them, right? They can't see what's going on with the other person, or because of their family connection, or they're in love with the other person, they can't see that the other person's a user. So we know that there's some cases where there's epistemological problems that arise, but could it be that you actually need to feel desire to see certain things in the world, or you actually need to love in a less interested way, a more giving way, in order to see things rightly? Those are philosophical questions, yeah.
Why do some of us strive for love and other people kind of stay away from it?
Ah, yeah. Why do some people strive for love? What is it that they're looking for in love? There's some people who love to be loved, right? And why do some other people say, I got to stay away. I don't want to get burned again, or I know love is trouble. It's going to interfere with my career. Yeah.
Can love be misleading?
Kind of given a mistaken understanding of ourselves or the world or the object of love, yeah.
How much control do we have over our desires?
Oh, that's a big one. Because a lot of times, what do we say? We don't have any control, right? That's a big question. How much do we shape our desires? Do we have any role at all? Or are we totally at their mercy? Let's start with that one.